Welcome back to Running with Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And Jeff is not here. Where? that was delayed. We are doing a Runners Roundtable episode, so it's not actually running news. But for most of the summer, we will be getting different kinds of episodes because I'm not always available to do news in a timely fashion, even though we're already always usually a week behind. So this is also a surprise. Jeff has no idea what we are chatting about. So I think we talked about this, and we've done an episode like this before where we ask people of the internet what is going on with running or what they're running. We've done the running etiquette one. I think we even released that on this feed as well as a re-release. So people probably have an idea of what that looks like. So this is kind of just a slightly smaller version of that because I had less people to ask for some reason. I don't know where all the internet runners are at, but they're not talking to me. So I had to kind of just make do with what we got. But so we're going to talk about two different topics. Race mistakes is one of them. And I was going to give you the common race mistakes, and then if you have a story about ones that you've done, because I know there are some that as I was writing them down, I was like, I know we know that these are some that have been done. And then also I kind of morphed running superstitions and rituals together as topic number 2. So race mistakes. Have you done them? I will tell you the top one that I also was I can't even relate to this. And I was thinking mostly about running as adults. So not thinking of when we actually competitively ran high school, college kind of things. Not having a running plan or a racing plan was number 1. And I don't know about you, but I have literally never had a plan for my race. Now,
yeah, I would say I always have plan being I always know going into a run, what pace I want to run. And again, I said it before, is I always am too optimistic. I always believe that, I can run a 7.5-minute mile for the entire marathon or half marathon. And inevitably, I get exposed as not being quite in that level of shape. Or more realistic, what's happened is I didn't hydrate during the race or I didn't eat well. So, yeah, I think I always have a time plan, but I don't necessarily have a plan beyond that. I don't have in this mile I'm going to make my move. I'm going to do this. I'm like some people in the marathon, they know the course so well. I think they've sort of slotted it out. Certainly the elites do on what to expect in each section. Where I'm just more time overall.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I guess as I'm thinking about it now, I'm I never have a thought that, okay, this is my plan for this race, but it's it is kind of always similar of start out slow and then just keep going with whatever slowness you got. Make sure you're fueling at this time and don't sprint the hills. So there's, I guess, a plan. But yeah, I guess that's one of the biggest mistakes is not having some kind of plan. So I guess there might be people who go out with even less of thought than I had.
So there's one other thing that you reminded me is that run we did in Philadelphia a couple of years ago where we started in the back and you had the stroller.
Yeah.
And when the gun went off, I just said goodbye. I took off, sort of like that.
Yeah, I do recall.
And that sort of became like what I enjoyed doing for the next several races, which was what was great about that race for me was starting all the way in the back and I was at a pace that was a little bit better than the people that were already in the back. So we started passing people, and that built a little momentum with me, and it felt good. So psychologically, it was good to start in the back, and I did that for the next several races. I stopped doing that to some degree, but I think that's that's a plan, that's a strategy to psychologically feel good about passing people, and then towards the end, now you're with the group that you should have been with when you started, and a little harder to sort of keep people from passing you.
Yeah, no, I forgot that you actually did that. And as you're saying it, that was ringing a bell that you did that for the next couple of races. Yeah, I like that one. Unless you're already slow and then you're just well, now it's just going to take even longer and I'm already in the back. So, but you did mention fueling errors. That was the next most popular, I guess, response, whether it's not fueling for your race, which is bad. Not hydrating for your race, bad. And then I think we've talked about, I don't remember if it was on this show or just like in general, but like those before race mistakes of either like overhydrating before, so now you're like peeing your pants while you race, or having whatever it is, or the Michael Scott of it all, of like having the chicken Alfredo like minutes before your race, and now you are having like stomach issues. So there's all kinds of things that can go wrong with fueling, but that was obviously another big one. Personally, I don't feel like I've actually, I mean, maybe like I can't even remember the first half marathon that I did. I don't even recall bringing any kind of fuel with me. Maybe I had water. Maybe I just drank at the water stations, but I don't think I actually fueled. But other than that, like, I don't think I've ever really had a fueling issue. Have you?
Yeah, no, I've been great before the race, so
Yeah.
I usually get to the starting line with the right hydration and the right nutrition going into it. My mistake is always the same, which is I always feel so good in the first half of the marathon. I don't drink anything. I drink a little bit I get the little cup and I take the sip. Sometimes I've even had a water bottle because for the ones that you have that's a loop where you have to do it twice. I actually had a water bottle with Gatorade type stuff in there that there was a station you could set it at. I felt so good at the halfway point. I said, nope, not going to grab it. I don't need it. I'm feeling so good. And inevitably, I cramp out. And by the way, I've never peed my pants in a race either. So
I have. Believe it or not, before I had a kid, though, that was in high school. I don't know if you remember this. That always happened every cross country race. I don't know what was wrong with me in high school.
I
Anyway.
don't remember that, and that's probably something you shouldn't share with people.
The next one is going out too fast. I also cannot relate to this problem. I think I almost always assume I am slower than I am. And personally, I mean, besides like those small 5Ks we do, like big races just always start slow unless you're like an elite runner and you're starting in the front. Like it always just has a slower pace because things need to weed out. So like I don't really understand this problem in
Yeah, I
practice.
mean, that's definitely the right advice, and I think every marathon I've ever read about it, and everyone's advice is always the same, which is yeah, go out at a leisurely pace, and then build over time, which I did say I would manage to do a lot of times, which is at least to the first mile or two, as you said, you're almost forced to run. Maybe you're hoping for a 7.5 or 8 minute mile. You're really forced into a 9 minute mile because it's just too crowded. But then
Mm-hmm.
it stretches out a little bit, and then miles 2 through 13, I'm great. I'm just cruising. But then it falls apart. Yeah, so I do think to start out slow is the right answer because again, that feels a whole lot better. If you go out hard, you're done. You're done. Forget about it. Just go home.
Literally. And you wish you probably could. This one's kind of like I want to say it's more just like rigidity in general, but a lot of responses were things along the lines of not adapting to conditions. Like if you're assuming like I'm running a spring race, I'm gonna have my shorts and t-shirt and whatever, and then it's like you wake up and it's freezing, or opposite, right? You're like, oh, it's gonna be a cold race because it's in the fall, and now you're hot. Just like not being prepared for whatever the race day conditions are is obviously a big mistake, but that's just kind of like a life mistake, right? Like just not being
Yeah,
prepared for whatever's happening.
that's a
Um,
hard one too. I mean, I think that's especially when it's cold. Like
yeah.
it's hard to know how many layers you need because when your body heats up, it's like, okay, I'm not used to running in this temperature, and it's early in the morning, and it's now 30 degrees outside. At least I find that difficult to. I don't have a lot of clothes that I'm going to just wear and just shed during a race. So I can just throw clothes away. That's just not the way I've typically done it.
Well, right. And then you run into the issue too of like, okay, am I helping clothe the homeless of this city, or am I like just polluting the area? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, it could be
it
a good
feels like
thing or
more
it
the
could just be
latter.
like a bad thing.
Yeah,
um, this was when I also was kind of like, what are they talking about? But people not using pacers. I'm assuming people are referring to like not going with like not like a pacer, but like the people who run around with the cards that are like, I'm the 7 minute mile person. I've also never, I don't think I've ever really run with those people. So maybe that is my my racing error that I didn't even know I did. But that one seemed kind of like weird because I feel like you can also get really caught up in like the pace that's maybe not actually how you're feeling for the day. I don't know. Have you
Yeah,
ever
I've
run
always
with them?
gone by feel. I
Yeah,
have a little bit, but I always see them, right? But if I since I'm always at least usually starting outside my zone, like sort of in the back, it feels good to
right.
be passing those people and like, oh, hey, I think I can get to the next one. I think I can get that. So it's a little bit motivating. But then you start falling behind at the end and you start to get passed by here's now the 3 hour marathon, the 4 hour marathon, the 5 hour marathon group. Um, so yeah, I do like to sign people though, but you are right though. If you really should run to how you feel. Now in the first half, you might want to stick with the pace that your objective is at. And hey, I
Mm-hmm.
feel great. Don't think you're gonna feel great for the entire time.
Right.
But I do
No,
think
that makes sense.
if you feel good and you feel like you can leave that group. Otherwise, you do kind of get stuck in sort of like, okay, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm locked into this.
Yeah. Um, this is one I know also we do not do. Neglecting warm up and a cool down. Never ever am I doing that before a race.
You're not warming up and cooling down. You're not neglecting it.
Oh, no, I'm not doing it. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes, I am neglecting it. I am for sure not doing that. And maybe again, this is probably why I don't even have goals for races, I guess. You started doing warm-ups though, right?
Yeah, we did the 10K and the 5K, that Chester County series, and I did find it made a difference. Like I think for a shorter race for me, again, I'm not an elite athlete, but I do think for longer races, half marathon, even a 10K and probably marathon, the early on, your warm up can be the first half mile, first mile. But I do feel like it made a difference. The few times I did it for the 5K, went out and just sort of ran like 400 meters or so, and I did feel like when I got to the start line, I was a little bit more like I didn't suddenly go where I was now breathless in the first half mile. I was sort of ready for that, and a lot of times I'm not ready for that.
Yeah. No, as a running coach, I will always say you should do a warm-up. Cool down, kind of whatever, but yes. You should definitely do a warm-up and I just don't. Um, let me see. There's only a couple more. Not addressing injuries. And I feel like this one's so tough too because like obviously you want to take care of injuries. But I also feel like something that happens to so many people is like you get so in your head about like is this a real injury or is this just muscle soreness or am I just like freaking myself out about some weird stiffness today. um but I will also say because I think I'm often like a person with an ache or a pain and I'm always just like well it's probably fine now. um was it maybe one of the first half marathons we did in Florida? And like 2 or 3 days before I even flowed down, I was like, my knee starting to bother me, overuse injury. We went and bought a bunch of KT tape, and I was like, I'll just Google how to tape this up and I will be fine. And I like hobbled through the entire half marathon. Um, it turns out my knee had like rotated off of, or like my tibia, whatever it is, something like rotated off of my knee because it was just an overuse injury that I then like destroyed through running that I had to then go see a chiropractor. And, it was like a whole thing. So yeah, like definitely learn my lesson not to ignore those things. It was
Yeah,
terrible.
it's a hard one because I would say 9 out of 10 times when I have like the Achilles hurts a little bit, my hamstring hurts, my knees a little seems a little stiff. I'd say 9 out of 10 times it doesn't hurt. Like in a week, I've forgotten about it. It's gone. So I would say is yeah, every time you have a little ache and pain, don't run to the doctor. But also, if you've got a knee issue, don't run a half marathon hard to what you did. There's probably a middle ground, which is, yeah, don't, you know, take it easy, see how it feels in a week or two, and if it really sticks around or gets worse, then see someone. But I wouldn't run every time you see a little ache and pain. Don't go run to the doctor.
I know. It's so tough, right? Because it's like, oh, you should just, listen to your body, but then you're like, I don't know what it's saying. And this is one I know you're super guilty of, new changes on race day. And I feel like this is such a played out answer because everyone already knows this and everyone still does it anyway. But no new things on race day.
I
What's
should
the
tell you.
worst new thing you did?
Worst new thing I did was the last marathon we did. I bought those new pair of shoes,
Mm.
brand new pair of shoes from Saucony, I believe, like the carbon plate, blah blah blah, super shoes. Spent a lot of money, and you know what I did? Now you don't even know this yet. I left them there.
No.
Yeah, I went looking for them because I haven't been, that was my last marathon I said I was going to do, but I hadn't been training because my knee was sore. I went looking for them and then realized, oh, they're not in the house. Oh my God, I left them there. I don't know whether I just left them. They got taken when I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to say I probably it's on me. Having run the marathon, I was a little bit tired, not focused. That they're gone. I
Oh
can't.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
So I'm 99% sure I left them there. They're gone.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. Sorry. That's the biggest mistake I've ever made.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that super sucks. No, I did not know that. Speaking of that same marathon though, this was another one, not planning your bathroom trips, bathroom breaks. And I know this was not your fault, but the venue did not have enough bathrooms for people and the line ended up being longer and like take longer than time was allowed for the race to start, and there was like still people there. You ended up starting like late to the race because the bathroom was like all backed up, but I know that is another one of people like not being prepared for the bathroom and or having to go to the bathroom when they're on the course, which I'm sure is worse.
Yeah, that was a big mistake. That was a huge. Just a terrible marathon.
That was, yeah.
And I felt bad because you were watching my bag for me. I got in that line, and it's like, man, this line's not moving. There's not enough bathrooms. It's going to be like the race is going to go.
Yeah.
So I felt bad, like, hey, just leave my stuff here. I'll take, don't worry about me. Because now I screwed you up. You weren't really ready to go on time. You didn't get to do your normal quote warm up that you don't normally do. Um, so yeah, I did start that race late because it was gone. I had to go to the bathroom still. It's like, oh my God, what a disaster. And then I left my shoes afterwards. So a disaster before, and it followed by a disaster afterwards.
And this last one still relates to that same race of not using the bag drop. And I think you also, did you end up leaving your bag with the bag drop or did you leave it and that's how you got your shoes taken? But people obviously saying like, I didn't leave my bag with the bag drop, got my stuff stolen or whatever. I couldn't find my things.
I
But you
left my
have
bag. I did leave my bag with the bag drop after I asked you to say, just put it down here with me. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about me. I got this covered. I begged the woman because now everyone's gone. I just said, hey, can I just leave this back here? To the woman at the bag check. I didn't have to tag or anything.
oh my God.
So she just helped me write something out real quick. And it was, again, the race was already going off. So
Yeah, because I remember at one point you were like, I'm just going to run it over to my car over here. I'm like, there can't be the best
that
answer.
was a complete panic. It was a complete panic.
That was a nightmare of a race. Yeah, and then it was, the rolling hills of Delaware ended up being like the hilliest course in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end of, and I've got, obviously there's like more running mistakes, but that was kind of all I found that I saw people at least saying and or know that we do too. And then running superstitions, excuse me, and rituals. This one also I like for a little bit didn't feel like I related to this idea at all, especially now that like maybe if you asked me back in the day with like being on a running team and stuff, like, oh, we used to do like the team dinners and whatever else. And we all had like the matching shoes. I'm sure we did a little chant before we ran and whatever, but now is like just me very casually with no racing plans or anything. I was like, oh, I don't know what these people are talking about. And some of the answers I just like completely left off because I was like, this is a one of one, 1,000% unrelatable to anyone else. But first one like seemed kind of obvious, a lucky outfit or like a special whatever. And I obviously like this idea because then you're not having the whole new thing on race day, or even if it's just like to go out for a run. Do you have like a racing? Because I love a uniform for anything. So like any excuse to be like, this is what I always wear for this. Like I like that.
Yeah, I do have a pair of running shorts that I wear every race. So it's like the
Yeah.
Rogue Fitness one. Yeah, I think people are superstitious. I'm a little superstitious. Like I think when you have success, if you want to call success in any kind of shape or form of what we do, you kind of feel like, oh yeah, you know what, that coffee or that raisin bread I had or the oatmeal, maybe that's part of feeling great for that run. So yeah, I'm guilty of it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why I was kind of like superstitions. I'm not really sure about that one, but like rituals, I do understand. And if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So if it's working, I'm all for it. So like you said, the oatmeal or whatever, the coffee, fuel was the next one. Like people are like, I always eat, this before my long runs, or I always have this. And it's like some of that can be like a superstition, but also some of that can just be like, this doesn't hurt my stomach. I'm fine with this. And you kind of are like that. You do like a same thing before like runs before a race, right?
Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes, but that's not one of them. Yeah, I do have the pretty much a set routine. Like 2 hours before I eat the oatmeal, and it used to be peanut butter and banana type stuff. But yeah, no, I have a set thing I do that I know like the night before exactly what I'm going to eat, what time it's going to be. I'm going to eat raisin bread
Yeah.
on the way there because I don't want to be hungry when I get there.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't know if I ever did that. I mean, I do, and it's probably just more of like tradition, so I guess more of like a ritual thing. But like, I will try to do pasta the night before a race, just because it's like a cutesy, like, oh, we used to always do this kind of thing, and I have to eat dinner, so might as well eat something that's pasta, and pasta's easy. So, like, I definitely do that still, but like outside of that, I don't think I have like a. I think I used to back when I wasn't like already addicted to coffee. I would be like, oh, I'm going to have coffee before a race because it's going to make me extra energized. Now it's just like, well, I'm going to have coffee because otherwise I'm dead. So here we are. But, and then lots of overlap, I feel like, with the running mistake. There are also these people's rituals. Um, a warm up routine, and I've already talked crap on warm up routine, so I clearly don't have a ritualistic warm up routine. I used to have like a very specific, even after like running in college, I still, if I would ever go to a track to do like some kind of run workout, like I had a very specific thing I used to do before running, and I can definitely still remember it. And I think I had the kids when I was doing the kids running program, like the kids were doing that as their warm up. But now you would not catch me doing any of those things. You started doing a warm up. Do you do any kind of like ritualistic warm up thing?
I do not. I do. I think every now and then on Instagram, and I'm scrolling through, and most of it's either animals or running are the things that seem to be in my algorithm.
Uh
And the
huh.
Ethiopian team is one of the things that they have these great warm up routines where like the entire team is sort of doing these, like hip flexor stretches and in unison to music, and it's soothing to watch and impressive. So I don't have a routine, but I do like other people's routine.
And speaking of to music, obviously people get very into their running playlists, and people were either talking about like having a specific playlist for races, which I totally get. Some people were even so specific as like, I have this song for the start of the race, and then I have this song when I know things are going to get hard, and then I have this song for like the finish. I'm like, that's too much thinking for me. um do you have a specific race playlist or no?
I think, well, it depends on what it is, but I have had it before. I've had music. I've got an exercise one, which is all sort of like heavy metal type music. And then Lose Yourself is in that mix. So I try to keep that one. If it comes up early, it's an Eminem song, and you know it. So I try to save that for the last end of it. But I also found that by the time I get towards the end of a race, I can't screw around with my, the music is so whatever's playing, I just listen to it. But I do have a plan. I'm going to play Lose Yourself with, 5 miles to go. I'm going to listen to that, 10 times, but can't do it. Can't screw around with it at the end.
I still remember it was probably that same race that I had that messed up knee, and we were at least like starting together, and all of a sudden I hear someone singing, and I'm like, there's no way ever someone's singing the race. Oh, it's you just coming around from the side. You're like kind of under your breath singing, and I'm like, this guy is wasting energy singing to his music. And I feel like it was probably Lose Yourself that you were singing to. It was not
Yeah.
5 miles, so it was definitely earlier than that. But yeah, no, music's a big thing, though. I do get that that's a ritual and superstition for people. I don't
Yeah, I
really
think
have a
I've gone to
playlist.
more podcasts now, though.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
more just
it
like
just seems like
brain off.
yeah, I do find it. I just the entertainment value. I am trying to like sort of like, okay, this is going to be like again 3 or 4 hours of time. I just music alone is just not enough for me. I just need something else to listen to.
Yeah, no, I definitely have like a plan of what I'm going to listen to, and again, like you said, the time frame of like making sure, okay, I this is going to be long enough to get me through the race. Um, this was a weird one, but I've heard people say this before, but not so much as like a ooh, don't do this, but more just like, oh, you're lame if you do this. Which I'm guilty of definitely doing this. Not wearing the race t-shirt for like if you're doing a race that has they give out like the t-shirt, so you do like your bib pickup the day before and then give you the shirt, and then like you always see a bunch of people wearing it. But apparently that's like a big I've always heard this is a big time no just because like, oh, you're a loser who's like you didn't have a shirt to wear until the day before. You're nodding your head. You're a
Yeah,
big
no,
time loser, or you think it's bad luck?
I might be a loser, but I believe you shouldn't wear the race T-shirt that they give out
Ever or just on the race?
just on race day. I don't, because
Okay.
it's like 100 people, there's 100 or 1,000 people wearing that same shirt. It's like yeah, no, because you're trying something new. Like, don't do something new. Wear your shirt that you normally wear.
So
Don't wear some
true.
shirt that's suddenly going to rub under your armpit differently, and you're going to have a massive rash. Don't do it.
Now, this is a big throwback. Do you remember back when I was in high school and we used to have to flag the local 5Ks that were like the evening races, and I convinced you to do one, and you wore the shirt because you didn't have a shirt, and it was a really hot, horrible cotton, and you ripped the sleeves off, but like the thread, like, it
I
was.
don't.
You don't remember?
I remember the disaster of that race because it was like I hadn't run. I think Steph was
Yeah.
talking how I told you how I'm a good runner. I was a good runner in high school and college, but not distance running. It's a different world. And so I was at the really end of the line, and I know you were the flag person there. I actually stopped and talked to you, and you were like, you almost like shooing me along, like you got to go, man. You just got to go.
Yeah, that was but yeah, so you've made that mistake, but that was like a one time. I forget you had like a reason why you had to wear the shirt, but then yeah, you ripped the sleeves off and then like the thread started to like fray, and it was the hottest cotton in the world. But yeah, no, don't wear the race t-shirt. That's fine. I agree. Don't wear anything new too. And then people started to get like a little crazier. So sorry for whoever's saying these things. Like not telling someone your goal for the race ahead of time. They're just like, oh, it's gonna mess it up if I tell someone like, oh, I'm trying to run a sub 4 or whatever. You're big on don't tell people what you're doing.
No, no, no. Actually, I'm the opposite. I'm willing to tell people what my goal is. I think people don't do it because they get a little bit like I don't know, superstitious, or if they don't achieve it, they feel like they disappointed people. And like, yeah,
Yeah,
I think if you tell people, and it's okay. So you're a little embarrassed that you sort of flamed out. Okay, it happens. But I also think there's a
yeah,
chance that it'll motivate you to like, you know what, I got to do this. I told people I was going to do this.
right. Yeah, I feel like it's either only positive or like nothing bad's gonna happen from saying it, right? Like it's not like, oh, I'm gonna do this now. I've cursed myself. I'm not gonna get it. So
If you're
yeah, I'm
superstitious, though,
not
you might think that.
I know. I guess this is like I picked a bad topic because I'm like, I don't really feel that way about most things. Someone a couple people actually were saying this, like they always this wasn't for races, this was just for like a regular run. They always run like point 0.1 farther than they were supposed to run because they like think they didn't actually run far enough or something. Like didn't totally make sense to me. I was like, what are you guys you just like run farther just because? Why'd you even plan to run less far then? Just like a weird one to me. I don't really
Yeah,
get why.
yeah. The only logic I can think of is if you're running I'm trying to run a 5K and I want to push myself to run 5.2 or sorry 3.2 miles, so
Yeah.
that it always feels like it's the training's a little bit harder than the actual race. Maybe that's the only I can think of.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true. But then it's just like, okay, you're following a weird training plan. If you're like, oh, to train for a 5K, I'm going to just keep running 5Ks. Like, that's not it.
Well, that's what
But
I used to do.
I, same. If I ever ran, I was like, oh, I'm gonna always run the same 3 mile loop. Um, Someone had the worst. It's not advice, but they said you never start walking because once you start walking, you'll never stop walking. You'll just like not be able to run anymore. Which I was like, that's a bad superstition because we were all about the Jeffing the other week. So that's a bad one. Sorry for
Yeah,
whoever said
although
that.
I do feel like if you once you break, it's and you're
Yeah.
done. And maybe you can push through. Like if you pushed through it, maybe you would feel better in the next mile. But the reality is, if your heart rate, like we talked about it earlier today, was once my heart rate gets into the red zone, I mean, you just can't stay in the red zone for you know another 2 hours. You're going to be forced to walk at some point,
Right.
unless you're David Goggins. So
Right. Exactly. Which we're not. This one I thought was silly until I like thought more about it. But people were saying like don't ever think about your breathing, which I never think about my breathing, but also don't think about your running form. Because then your breathing and or running form is going to start getting wonky. And I was like, that's crazy. Um, Not exactly the same, but I don't really run with people a lot. So then like in a race, you start to like look around and see people. And there have been moments where I see someone who has like the most it didn't cut out. I just was trying to think of the nicest way to say like peculiar running gait, and it starts to like make me feel like I'm running weird now after watching like because I'm like these mechanics are freaking me out. I don't know what's happening, and I'm like, is my
do I
body
look
doing the
like
same
that?
thing? Yeah, well, it's more just like, am I now? I'm like, wait, I don't actually remember how my knees are supposed to move because now I'm like seeing this weird rhythm in front of me that's like so off kilter. So I feel like it gets like disorienting almost. But yeah, I've never like had the thing of like, oh, I'm thinking about how fast I'm breathing. Now I'm breathing crazy and I can't rein it in. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a bunch of studies that talk about like you thinking about your form and trying to do something different is not very it's not good for your endurance. So because you're
Yeah.
using mental energy and you get fatigued because you're no longer just getting into you talk about the flow state and the zone different podcasts before and if
Hmm.
you're thinking about your breathing and you're thinking about your gait, then you're not probably in sort of the zone.
No, for sure. And I mean, I'm sure lots of people have said this, but I think like Michael Johnson famously has talked about like people trying to change his running form and like how like you just different bodies are actually going to move and look a little differently depending on different proportions that you have. And yeah, like you shouldn't really change certain things because it's actually not going to help you be faster or more efficient. And then
Yeah,
the
I think
last one, oh, go ahead.
yeah. So I think there's a give and take with that, though. I think you're right. I think there's subtle changes that you probably are. Everyone's got a little bit different body structure, but there are some bad running styles that are probably very, very inefficient. That
For sure.
you should change some things. With you swinging your arms wildly while you're running. Well, that's you should probably try to get to a little bit of a rhythm where you're going forward and back. And not side to side a whole lot. So there are some things that you can change in your running form that will probably benefit you. But I agree, there's not, there are a lot of things that can't be changed and shouldn't be changed. You shouldn't be thinking about while you run.
For sure. Um, The last one is only wearing your running shoes and running clothes when you're running. Um, I obviously don't do that because I wear the same thing everywhere. But the running shoes, I will say, I don't wear my running shoes to pretty much do anything except for run. But that's more of just like they get so beat up anyway. Like I'm not going to just be like casually wearing them anyway. You know what I mean? It's not more of a like, oh, I can't wear my running shoes to walk.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. I think you gave me that advice, I don't know, years ago, which was, your running
Hmm.
shoes should be for running. And I was doing that for a long time where I was just using them for runs. And then somehow since in the last couple of years, I actually just, since they're so comfortable and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to use them for mowing the lawn. I'm going to use them for my walking because they are the other shoes were, hurting my Achilles or just trying something different. So I'm like, nah, I'm going to stick with one shoe And I guess I had end up with a beat up pair and then a good pair. So the good pair I
Hmm.
saved for like real runs, and I had the beat up pair. I was wearing more around the house and doing other things. That's my advice. Do that.
Yeah. No, I will say I actually do like my lawn mowing shoes when I'm not wearing the wrong shoes for that. I do have designated lawn mowing shoes that are old running shoes that I have to remember to use. But yeah, the ones that are like my regular running shoes, they only run. Some of it I get, but again, I don't know if that really falls into like a superstition category or like a just as practical.
That's good advice,
Um
though.
yeah, no, definitely good advice. I feel like the superstitions kind of felt into advice as well. But that was kind of all we have for the running roundtable. Uh, Feel free to comment any other ideas for other things. I think we are going to do just like weird things you saw on a run. We'll do that episode. Worst running advice. We'll also be doing that episode in the near future. So, feel free to leave us a comment of ones you would like us to discuss. Make sure you subscribe. And we mentioned we are on YouTube now, so please, I guess, subscribe to the channel, right? That's the thing. And
Yep.
and yeah, yep, okay. And make sure you're liking the show, share the show, so we can help the show grow. I sounded like Dr. Seuss. And we will catch you next week.